Hello all, and welcome back to Thread Dread. Today we'll be covering part 2 of I Am All Alone in an Abandoned Building by Maria Applevisser, or IArgonauty on Reddit. Without further ado, let's begin. I saw it immediately. She was reading a book by the window. There was no chair in the painting, so she leaned against the wall. She had tied her auburn hair back into a tight knot. Her hair was put together tightly, not a single strand was out of place. She wore a different green dress. The bodice was decorated with silver thread and made her look brighter somehow. Her fingers this time, decorated with pure silver rings, caressed the brittle pages with care. Her eyes looked downwards, the bright color not seen. The book itself was worn. The spine was frayed, and what I could see from the cover, it was a muddy, uneven brown. I did not know what held her attention this much, what words would entrance her like this. She did not pay any mind to the sea, which stretched calmly in gray. There were no waves this time, and the horizon was painted faintly. The lines between sky and water blurred to nothing. As always, the moment I spotted her, I had to take action. I had 10 minutes to grab what I needed for the next long sit. I rushed to the resting room and looked at the food table. It was always stocked with bread, cheese, pieces of smoked meat, and fish. It also had sealed bottles with a thick, dark blue liquid. I picked up as much supplies as I could carry, pieces of bread, a large wedge of cheese, and 2 bottles. I never knew how much I needed, but to be fair, it was not like I really needed it. The only thing I really wanted to take with me was the bottles. I had no clue what was in there. The liquid was unrecognizable to me, but it kept me awake and dulled the headaches I tended to have after a while of observing. I had called it Blue Bull. For a short moment, I wondered who kept the food and drinks filled, but I realized I did not care that much. I had to do my job. A movement caught my eyes. The window that occasionally lit up the resting room was open. I did not know it could open like that. It was night. The little lights that I had seen as blurs for so many nights moved about. They seemed to be closer somehow. I had some moments left. I crept closer to the window, too interested in what would be outside. On the edge of a creek, where the grass was divided by a footpath, the lights played and danced around. I did not know whether it was the light, or that the earth itself was a bright orange. Maybe these were fireflies. I somewhat remember that there were no fireflies where I lived. I had found it unfair when I was little. Suddenly, one of the lights shone a lot brighter than the others. Was this normal? If it was not fireflies, it could be fire from people maybe. The brighter flame shone brightly, like a fire that was fed something flammable. The tall blue grass shook. Something was moving through the tall grass. A man was running, pushing the long stalks away as fast as he could. The lights followed him. Was he running away? The man reached the footpath and turned sharply. The lights were still following him, but there were no hands that held them. They must be fireflies. The voice of the man sounded sharply through the stillness. Barlamene! Barlamene! He threw something on the ground, a piece of fabric, and ran away again. The lights came near, but stopped where the cloth was thrown away. They looked like floating flames, in different shades of yellow, orange, and red. I had no time, but the flame thing seemed fascinated by the fabric. I closed the window, just to be sure those flames would not go inside. With my arms full of stuff, I quickly stepped down the hall and into the room with the painting. I put the food on the table and sat down in the chair. which groaned loudly. Maybe it knew it would be a long sit. I was stuck in that chair until the moment with the green dress had vanished again. I put the candle near the fresh stack of paper that was already waiting for me. I closed my eyes for a moment. Luckily, there were no consequences for blinking or looking away quickly, but leaving my post was no option. I tried it once, back when I started the job and I had only received the first letter. I thought I had to get sleep, and I wanted to walk to the resting room. 5 steps further, and I was flat on the floor. My head spun, my legs did not want to carry my weight, and I had the feeling I could not breathe. Panicked, I crawled back to the chair. With every inch I got closer to the painting, I noticed my breathing was easier. My head became clearer. A blue letter was waiting for me. Dear Maria, we noticed that you left your post without notifying us that the character has disappeared. We are praying for you that the High Beast is fortunate for us and brings you back to your job. As the priestess of the High Clouds once said, the footsteps seen lead us to the right path. May he lead you to the right path as well. Walking the royal road will make us true. Please stay where you should be and notify us of anything the character does. I could not stand for long. I could not step away. I could only watch the painting. I sighed and looked at her. How long do I have to sit here this time? Hours? Days? Weeks? Both the woman and the sea gave no answer. I played with the piece of bread I had brought with me. It was one of the few things I could do in those 4 days I was stuck again. Bread would not go stale, no matter how long it sat on my table. Nothing really rotted that I took from the resting room. A small loaf I had broken in two a couple of days ago was several weeks old already. How old things actually were was hard to tell. And most interesting of all, everything still looked fresh. It sometimes seemed that time only ticked forward for me, and everything else remained in some preserved state. My hands found the cheese. That wedge did not get moldy or dusty. They still tasted the same, no matter what I did to it. The taste was also the reason I had no idea whether something would go off anyway. If you had not taken notice, the food is dreadful here. Even though everything is restocked on a regular basis, the amount of salt in the food was way too much. Even the drinks were salty. Those blue liquids seemed to be some kind of fruit juice, but they put salt in it. It tasted syrupy and metallic beneath a hint of sweetness. I did not think I would ever find out why this was the only kind of food and drink they gave me. I had complained about the food several times. The first time I bit into the cheese, I thought it was a very old, ripe piece, and it was normal. But then I took a bite of the bread, and it was even worse. Using the precious moments of looking away from the painting, I wrote a complaint. Hi everyone. I think something is wrong with the food. It tastes wrong. I had to look back at the painting, and the letter had disappeared. The response was shorter than my unfinished letter. Dear Maria, we will look into it. By the green grass, we hope you will see the path soon. I thought they would give me something else. Something new. Nothing changed. I had seen new food the time I could enter the resting room again, but it had the same salty taste. I wrote several letters about the food after that, but I got no response. One time, while waiting for the woman to return, I was completely fed up. Why would I eat this trash? It is probably unhealthy, maybe even toxic. Could not bear it any longer to look at it. I took everything to the room with a window I knew would open. It took me 3 runs to get everything off that table. I opened up the window and threw everything out into the open. I watched it fall, the bottles breaking open and spilling the contents into the earth. The bread tumbled down and scattered over the ground, disappearing into the blue grass. The cheese and meat reached the ground almost unharmed. It laid on the grass like stones. A hiss came from the tree line. A white snake appeared and moved slowly towards the discarded food. I had no idea how big the snake was, but it could coil itself around the cheese several times. On its head was a little gold crown. It sat on its head like it was glued on there. The snake seemed to taste the meat with its thin tongue. Was the meat warm enough for the snake to be interesting? Before I could ponder more, the snake had opened its maw completely and started to ingest the piece of meat whole. The cheese was next. I had thrown half a wheel of cheese away, and it ate everything. After the food was gone, the snake slithered away again, back to where it came from. It felt like eating salt blocks. Did you ever accidentally put the top of a salt shaker and dump all your salt into the soup, and then you tried to eat it? That is what it tasted like. Like the food they were feeding me was made out of pure salt, but just colored differently. And yet I could vaguely distinguish other flavors mixed in. They were like flickers at the edge of my tongue, faint and quickly dying away. Nothing I ate would take away the taste of bitter salt, burning my tongue raw. I quickly stopped eating entirely. My throat was burning every time I swallowed. Eating had become a punishment, and the longer I did not eat, the more it seemed I did not have to eat at all. It would take multiple days to feel slightly hungry, and the only reason I would eat would be to take away the tiredness. In my busted up memories, there was a spark that told me that food had to taste good, different from the salt I had been given. The idea of warm, sweet bread, ripe fruit, and juicy meats filled my head. The idea of it all filled me with joy, a little spark in this dark building. For a moment I had a rush of taste in my mouth. I swallowed, and the taste faded away. Every now and then, I felt that same rush, the same feeling I had something in my mouth, but when I swallowed, the feeling went away. When the woman in the green dress was in the painting, I never needed to sleep either. I did get tired, which I could chase away with the food, and a headache could start up every now and then. A vein in my head would beat uncomfortably. That was something the blue bull could take care of. The cheese had rolled away from me. It was somewhere on the ground, and I did not bother looking for it, while looking at how she was reading that same book for ages. I grabbed the candle and softly squeezed into it while contemplating the painting. It was not a large painting, roughly the size of my own head, or maybe a little bit bigger. The frame that surrounded the painting hung low, at my eye height, and was thick and carved from dark wood that looked heavy. It had to be expensive long ago too. The state it was in now, though, showed many years of neglect. Most of the gold leaf had chipped away in the past. Only a few pieces were left where the gold clung stubbornly to the termite-eaten wood, and yet it had a strange attractiveness. The painting, with a sea in the background, always looked cool to me. The woman was painted in cool tones as well, but the frame itself looked warm, like it was creating warmth itself. I reached out without thinking, running my fingers over the spot where most of the gold had vanished. The wood there was soft, fragile, more dust than solid matter. It crumbled beneath my touch, staining my fingertips with a mix of brown and gold. I felt a finger going past my cheek, and then I noticed the letter. It had 3 words written on it. Do not touch. End of story. Once again, a big thanks to authors like Maria Applevisser for providing stories for us to read. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have anything to do. And additionally, there's a playlist for this series, I'm All Alone in an Abandoned Building. So please feel free to go to that and listen to the previous part. I will put a link to it in the description. Thank you very much. Bye.